Thank you. Thank you, everybody. That was wonderful. Thanks, Mark. Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. How are we doing? Everybody take a breath with me. And let it out. Yeah. I'm Reverend John. My pronouns are he, him, and I want to welcome you to Centers for Spiritual Living Nashville. Thanks for being here. I have a little story to tell you. So a lot of you know that I worked in the nonprofit world like my entire adult life, really. And back in the day, I worked for the Goodman Theater in Chicago. The Goodman's a large nonprofit theater. We did a lot of original productions, and a lot of them got transferred to other professional productions, and including Broadway. And we were doing this remount of Bertolt Brecht's Galileo. And it was starring Brian Dennehy. If you don't know Brian, Google him. He's a big, tall, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful man. And Brian is very Irish through and through. He's a beautiful raconteur, beautiful storyteller. And also liked to, go out after rehearsals and after the show. So early on in the process, he went out with a bunch of castmates, and they were out at the bar. Anyway, the next day, he comes into the business office where I worked and running the business office and all that. He came in looking for petty cash because he wanted to... well, as it turned out, the night before, he got into a bar fight, and he had a big old black eye, and he had an on-camera interview with a local affiliate, so he was looking for some sunglasses or something. So we said, we'll take care of it, Brian, it's fine. So we got him a little bit of makeup, and we got him like these little kind of clear yellow sunglasses, and he looked great. He looked like a movie star, because of course he was a movie star. And it all went well. Anyway, at the closing party for the show, we were selling these sweatshirts in the gift store. They were white with the etching of Galileo. Did we get the Galileo etching we can show everybody? That's fine. Yeah, so there's Galileo. So we had an etching of him on this T-shirt, on the sweatshirt that we were selling at the gift store. Anyway, he got one of those for everybody in the cast, everybody in the crew, front of house, staff. Everybody got one at the closing night party. And Galileo, on the ones that he got for us, had a black eye. Which was just an inside joke. You know, we become quite a family when you're doing a show like that. Anyway, excuse me, I have a little something going on. The reason I wanted to tell that story is because it just reminded me, as we're talking about aging today, how we assemble this sort of data bank of moments and memories and stories that we just accumulate about the life that we've lived. I feel like I've lived 5 or 6 different lives all in one. You know, I had my nonprofit theaters experience. I've had my arts management experience. I've had ministerial experiences and all kinds of other experiences on top of it. And it's these accumulation of memories that bring us so much joy and is part of the joy of having years behind us, so we have accumulated so much good in our lives. So why do we see so many fighting with this idea of time and aging, dreading it, even judging it? There are things, and I think it's because there are things we lose along the way, right? We can't jump as high or run as fast or sing as loud, maybe. And yet this is all just a reminder that the instrument of spirit, this thing, the instrument of spirit, which is our body, is not meant to carry us into eternity. Even though we are eternal beings, this body is not meant to carry us all the way through. It serves a specific purpose at a specific time and place. What we know is the here and now, that this is a stage of our existence. And because we are here, and we are still here, thank goodness, I'm kind of glad to be here with all of you. We're all still here. That means there's more for us to do here. There's more for us to experience, there's more for us to share, and there's more for us to express. More to contribute, more to channel, more spirit to channel into this human experience. We pay attention to our evolution and discover new things about life. And in doing so, we discover new things about ourselves. And I think that's sort of the breathtaking part of this life experience, is that there is always more. There's always the next thing to learn. There's always an aspect of even ourselves, who we think we know ourselves really well. There's still more that we're discovering every day that goes by, every year that goes by. One of the things that I was thinking about this talk, I was thinking, okay, I'm going to talk about aging. One of the things that came up for me as I was thinking about it and reflecting on how we characterize that and think about it in our society is that there can be a difference in this very gendered society between the way women are seen and hold this idea of aging versus men. And there's a poem about this that I wanted to share with you by Rupi Kaur, Rupikaur. She is a wonderful South Asian poet, and if you don't know her, I would also Google her. And I didn't do a slide for this because it's a little too long for a slide, but I wanted to share it with you anyway. So this is what she writes, which I kind of love this poem. That's why I wanted to share it with you. So this is her poem. They convinced me I only have a few good years left before I was replaced by a girl younger than me, as though men yield power with age, but women grow into irrelevance. They can keep their lies. For I have just gotten started. I feel as though I just left the womb. My 20s are the warm-up for what I'm really about to do. Wait till you see my 30s. Now that will be a proper introduction to the wild woman in me. How can I even leave before the party's started? Rehearsals begin at 40. I ripen with age. I do not come with an expiration date. So perhaps the challenge is to make peace with our body and the aging process. I think this may be one of those hidden places where peace gets disrupted. And so making peace with that life process could be a way in which, one of the aspects of which we make peace with the world and we create peace in our world. Remember, we've talked about this a couple Sundays back. And so there's a quote I wanted to share with you from Ernest Holmes. And he says, "We should do away forever with the idea that age has anything to do with us. Spirit is never old, and the soul is always young." And don't you feel that? Like, I walk around here, I don't see any old people. I feel like everybody here is like 18, I mean, there's a vibrancy, an energy as we step into spirit and we channel this spirit. There's a flow to it. There's an aliveness that just permeates all of this. Just to remind you, this month we've been looking at the book Falling Upwards by Richard Rohr. So Richard Rohr tells us, he argues that aging can become a spiritual awakening rather than a biological decline. So as we move through this aging process, we are awakening ever more and more and more to ourselves and to this spiritual reality. So what looks like falling, according to Richard, loss, failure, disappointment, grief, retirement, physical limitation, can actually become the doorway to wisdom. This is the meaning of falling upward. Rohr sees aging as the long spiritual practice of surrender. Letting go of certainty, letting go of roles and reputations and all these sort of human things, and even eventually life itself, as we step ever more fully and more expressively into our spiritual truth. But he does not frame this negatively. He often presents it as liberation into a deeper participation in source, reality, universal love, whatever your word or phrase is here. I usually avoid the G word, the God word, because some people have issues with it. I don't, but I try to invite in for you to come up with your own word or phrase that is that life force, that love force that is within all of us and is universal. For the next slide, we have Richard Rohr talking about transforming this idea of getting older or aging into being an elder and what elders mean. And he says, elders are less driven by ego and image. They hold suffering with more spaciousness, become more generative and compassionate, seek to give back rather than accumulate. And this is the gift of aging, that we start to let go of. I think when I was younger, I used to be worried about what are other people thinking about me. And then as you get older, of course, I think this is the Winston Churchill quote, like, you realize nobody's thinking about you. They're all thinking about themselves. So the pain associated with aging grows more and more distant. And we remember the thrills and the adventures. I think life is really about this powerful experience. As I get older and I reflect back, like I said, I was talking about this story with Brian, so many different stories, so many different times in my life. And I think, oh my God, that was fun. Even when it was hard or challenging or even heartbreaking, I'm so glad I had those moments. Oh my God, because I lived life. I have lived a life full. And living fully in my life is a great, great gift. And we remember the significant moments and the significant people, those people who left their energy signature on our soul. And we carry them with us. And I believe in the by and by, in the whatever comes for us after we let these bodies go, that we are all together again. Which is the good news and the bad news. Because the good news is we're always together again. The bad news is you're kind of stuck with me. Sorry. My dean of my campus when I was in ministerial school was Dr. Kathy Hearn, a longtime CSL minister, brilliant, wonderful woman. And she would talk about the veil as that thing that separates the human thing from the spiritual thing. And she talks about this idea of, as you move more and more and do more of these spiritual practices and move deeper into it and move through time, the veil gets thinner and thinner, right? And our spirit and our spirit self and our human self start to become indistinguishable. What is wise for us to remember is that we are not bound by our thoughts and beliefs, which we know. They seem, particularly I think when I was younger, they seem so vital and so important that I hung on to my own will and my own, the world's going to be this way. And it took me a while. Some of us do it much sooner, some of us do it later in life, but it took me a while to realize that the more I let go, the more I surrendered into my spiritual practice and my spiritual connection, everything that I could ever hope for, want, dream of was just flowing through and to me. Maybe not in exactly the same picture that I might picture for myself, but the essence of it, right? So if I'm looking at abundance, the abundance might not come to me in the way that I thought it was going to come to me, but the tone of it, the feeling of it, the experience of it was absolutely there. So the form stopped being important. It was the experience that became important. There is another quote from Emma Curtis Hopkins, the great Emma, teacher of teachers. If you look into the science of spirit, you will see that your life is meant to be sustained by the science of God and not the science of matter. Very, very deep spiritual person. So the science of source, the science of spirit, not the science of matter. Because if all we do is look at the science of matter, even though it's starting to shift with quantum mechanics and everything, if we look at just the form of things, then all we're doing is looking at what we can perceive through our senses of the form of things. But once we start to elevate that consciousness and expand beyond it and understand there's something deeper going on here, then it starts to become really interesting. This is what transcendentalists did. This is what Emerson was teaching when Emerson was writing all his essays. in order to really embrace this liberation from a consciousness of aging to a new reality, one of the things that we really have to address, and I kind of didn't want to because it's like, how do you even talk about this? But I'm going to anyway, which is the fear of death. We can't have this conversation about life everlasting and all this good stuff without first addressing the fact that most of us, if not all of us, have sort of within us this fear of death. Very natural. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not a big fan of making anybody wrong for the feelings they have or the beliefs they have or whatever. But what I want to do is hopefully encourage us to move past all of that. So some new thought wisdom that I found as I was exploring this idea of the fear of death. Fear is a misuse of the mind. New thought treats fear itself as the deeper problem. So the problem isn't death. The problem is fear, right? Fear of death is seen as an inversion of the creative power of thought, using imagination to rehearse the annihilation rather than affirm life. So the counsel there is use our imagination and our thought processes to affirm life. And one of the ways we do that is whatever age we're at, remembering that we're always moving forward. There's always something new happening. There's a new moment, a new day, a new experience, a new something. And if we keep doing that, eventually what happens is life just carries us forward into the next yet to be. Death becomes like this thing that it's just a doorway that we walk through. Phineas Quimby, if you don't know Quimby, maybe we'll do some talks about Quimby. The Quimby notebooks are a really great read. Mary Baker Eddy, who was the founder of Christian Science, and all their fellow New Thought thinkers all saw death anxiety, and this is their language, not mine. They could be a little, Mary Baker Eddy especially, could be a little harsh, just so you know. They said they saw the death anxiety as a kind of mental disease that could be corrected with right thinking. Neville Goddard and Joel Goldsmith emphasized that your true identity is the eternal I am, pure awareness, not the body. From this perspective, fearing death, I love this teaching. Fearing death is like the ocean wave, fearing it will cease to be water. The form changes, the substance doesn't. I'm going to say that again. Fearing death is like the ocean wave, fearing it will cease to be water. The form changes, the substance doesn't. So, the intellectual argument about the fear of death is not enough. To achieve true freedom from the fear of death, we no longer identify as mortal. We let go of that identity. And that our identities are so fundamental, that is a process. That doesn't happen typically. It can, but it doesn't typically happen like that. We usually need a little bit more work on that. And we're continually discovering that next thing in life. We continue to move forward. Our identity becomes one of explorers of life, right? And which is why we practice these tools, these new thought tools that we do here all the time, as Alan led us through beautifully this morning, with a meditation, which we can do guided or unguided. We do spiritual mind treatment, which is our form of prayer. We're going to do that a little bit later. We have visioning and visualization. We have mental equivalence. We have all these different tools that we use to bring us back into that connection with spirit so that our human self and our spirit self are never disconnected. And if you want to learn more about that, we have classes. We have book studies. I'm looking at Jacqueline. Jacqueline has a book study coming up. Ernest Holmes, in his 1952 radio broadcast titled "There Is No Death," declared that he considered the immortality of the individual life conclusively proved, arguing that we live because Source, God, Spirit lives in us, and that it is this life of Spirit which is eternal. So his logic is, if Spirit is infinite and omnipresent, and if we are expressions of that one life, then the termination of you and me would require the termination of Spirit, which is impossible. So we live in that logic statement, right, that helps liberate us out of that old belief that has been habituated. We've learned, we've seen it, we've learned it, we've experienced it, we've seen people pass away, we've grieved, we've picked up from the others around us a way of thinking about that we have to. I don't want to say you have to, but you're invited to think about it differently. You're invited to a deeper understanding of it. Death of the body, in this view, is a change of form, not the end of our beingness. So we're just changing our form, which means that those who have gone before us, who are on the other side of the veil, who are holding space for us, because that's what I believe. I believe that when they go and they love us, they're holding a good space for us over there. So when we go, we're going to be welcomed and find a really joyful reunion. That we remember that we're just changing form. And I wanted to talk just a minute about grief because, of course, when someone leaves us, there is grief, this grief process. We miss them. We miss their presence. We miss their smile and our conversations and our connections with them. Even though the connection continues in spirit, there's something about the tangible connection that feels really important and special. And so we have this grief experience, which is absolutely right. We should be having that. And we remember, oh, right, there is this immortality, this continuation of the soul. And when we remember that, it diffuses that hopelessness that can come with grief. Because again, in time, in space, in this eternal world, in this infinite consciousness, we are all going to be together again. There is no loss. There is just delay, right, till we get there. Holmes saw fear as a misdirected use of the law of mind, since mind creates experience, which we've already talked about. Chronic fear of death actually impresses death consciousness into the subconscious, making it sort of a reinforced prison, which is his phrase. So the remedy is not suppression of fear, which is tempting. Say, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. Don't do that. The counsel is that not the suppression of fear, but the replacement, actively cultivating a felt sense of eternal life. And I've talked about this before. If you really go within and you explore your beingness, I think what you'll find is you will never find a place where you weren't, where you didn't exist, where you weren't there. There was no beginning to you. You've always been. We've always been. And that's the truth of who we are. We've always been and we always will be. We won't have these particular bodies or this particular moment in time, but that's okay. We're going to have many more. And as I said at the beginning, we have this beautiful database of all these moments and connections and feelings and life experiences that we carry with us forever. Neville Goddard taught that imagination is the creative faculty of the soul, and that to assume feeling of once we assume the feeling of wish fulfilled is to set in motion that will to make it so. And I don't think it's finalized, but I think Reverend Dr. Mitch is going to do some work on Goddard coming up in the fall, so hang on for that. If you don't know Neville Goddard, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Imagine then not the diminished self of our learned expectation, but the expanded self of spiritual possibility. Imagine what it would feel like to inhabit your age with dignity, authority, and delight. And I like the word authority a lot. The invitation is this: between now and next Sunday, well, maybe even beyond that, but at least between now and next Sunday, I invite you to notice, once you feel the inner flinch of age, oh my God, a limitation, I'm feeling it in my bones, in my body, I'm feeling it however I'm experiencing it. Instead of contracting, ask yourself, what is being asked of me here? What is Spirit inviting me to release? What am I being invited to discover? Who am I being invited to become? Because something is shifting, something is changing. You can feel it physically, we can feel it in each day that goes by. That's what's supposed to happen. So what are you being invited to become? Perhaps this is the true final frontier, establishing our authority over our beliefs. That's our work here. That's what we do here. We come into this space to do these spiritual practices, to gain that authority so that we're not just, blowing in the wind with every single circumstance that comes along and just a victim of circumstances. But we are creating our lives consciously, intentionally. We have the authority of this consciousness in our lives and the perspective we take with it. We are, and I have said this many times, we are the meaning makers. We are the ones that make the meaning out of whatever is happening. And we can choose to make it mean that life is terrible and all is lost, or we can choose to have it mean that I'm being invited to something even bigger. I'm being invited to a bigger idea about myself right here, right now. And I am open to that, and I'm stepping into that. So I want to leave you with this affirmation. This is a Louise Hay affirmation. So you can take this out with you in the week. I am willing to release the need for struggle and suffering. I deserve all that is good. Would you say that with me, everyone? I am willing to release the need for struggle and suffering. I deserve all that is good. God bless Louise Hay. I love her. Yeah. So if I can invite the practitioners up here, we're going to close out with some prayer. So if you're new with us or you're new online, hello online family, when we do prayer work, we are praying from this place of love, this place of light, this place of peace, of God, of truth. And we are stepping away from any ideas about something outside of ourselves. We're not praying to something outside. We're not beseeching something outside of us. So we just breathe into that truth that God is within. And so I invite you into that understanding right now. Thank you, practitioners, for holding this beautiful space for our community. And so we know that we step into this space knowing and recognizing Source as the all that is everywhere and every when. It is the creative spark of life. It is life itself. It is in and through all that is as it is all that is. It is in and through me as I am one with it. I celebrate my oneness with it, knowing that I am an expression of this life, this light, this love here and now. And knowing this for myself, I know this for each person here. I know that for each and every single person, as you hold this space, as you hold this consciousness, whatever area of life you're calling in for more love, more light, more wholeness, more abundance, I just know that that is what is occurring right here, right now. The path may not be clear. It may happen in ways expected. It may happen in ways unexpected. But I know that it is happening, that the way is made for you, and that you are loved beyond measure. I just hold this idea of aging as this process that just leads us into a greater and greater evolution of spirit, evolution of self, evolution of consciousness, and let go and release anything that is not like itself, releasing any fear or anxiety around it, knowing ease and grace for each and every single person, knowing wholeness, presencing that here and now, And I'm so grateful for it, so grateful for this powerful presence of Spirit. Just so grateful for the ways that it unfolds, that its presence is absolutely assured. It is here and now, never an absence, always a presence. And so just knowing this, going out into our week, our month, our year, just knowing that these blessings come with us. I release it into the action of law that always says yes, that it presents itself and expresses itself in us and through us. I let it be, and together we all say, and so it is.
May your life be filled with joy and prosperity in every way. Learn more about our programs or contact one of our practitioners at our website, cslnashville.org. You may also want to follow us on Facebook at CSLNASH. You can make a big difference with your financial gift at lovecsln.com. Please share the link to this program with a friend and join us again next Sunday. Have a wonderful week.